Sunday, June 27th. So the moon is in Aquarius for the majority of the day. We have been in this Aquarian energy, which is very refreshing, coming out of that full moon in Capricorn energy. Why? Because we were weighted down by that earth energy in Capricorn. We were focused on our roles, on our responsibilities, on the weight that we carry on our shoulders. It is very down to earth. It is very karmically connected and intense. And for the most part, when we shift into that Aquarian energy, we set ourselves free. We emotionally detach from some of the things that were weighing on our heart space. We can see the bigger picture moving forward. We want to improve. We want to progress. We want to bust away from the old, from the restrictions, from the confines that we would have been illuminated to, especially under that full moon in Capricorn energy. So the moon will be in Aquarius all day. It will be going void, of course, around 4:09 p.m. And here's something interesting. It will be locking into the moon in Pisces early, well, actually not that early, Monday afternoon. This is a very long void, of course. This is actually rather long. This is going to create a lot of instability, a lot of indecisions, a lot of wacky emotions coming in and moving out. A lot of things coming to the surface and then going back down to the deep depths of our subconscious, of our psyche, of our heart space. But before all that happens, because again, we do get the majority, the bulk of the day, very solid in this Aquarian energy, we have a lot going on that's going to help us tweak the volume of what's going on energetically in the cosmos. Right out of the gate, we have Venus moving into Leo. I am going to recommend that you listen to this particular cosmic event in the June energy forecast. Venus has been in Cancer. She's been very weepy, very sensitive, very hypersensitive, very triggered when it comes to the home and the family dynamic. When it comes to traditions that are currently breaking. Why? Because we're breaking the link of generational trauma. There's been a high level of sensitivity, recognizing our own worth, recognizing where change needs to take place. But of course, that Cancer energy highly attached to what it is that we have been doing, what it is we have been pouring our heart and soul into, and a little bit hesitant to make the changes that we know that we have to make. So Venus moving into Leo, we're getting more fired up, we're getting more passionate, we're getting more confident, we're getting more bold. Why? Because this Leo energy is fire. It is the heart and soul of the zodiac. It wants us to listen to our heart and soul. It wants us to step out into center stage and stop hiding in the darkness. It wants us to honor our truth. It wants us to be playful again. It wants us to be creative again. It wants us to work on breaking down the walls that we've all created around our heart space in attempt to protect ourselves. What we're now realizing is that those walls are a little thick, they're a little bit tall. And what we're also realizing is now we've become a prisoner of our own restrictions and our own confines. Now, Venus being all about love and beauty and value and worth, she's letting her hair down a little bit here in this Leo energy. She wants to have fun. And the chase between her and Mars, the masculine divine energy, the chase is kind of getting a little bit intense. They're in the same sign. They are coming together. The gap is closing. Meaning we are getting set up for a cosmic connection like you would not believe. This is creativity on hype. This is love on hype. This is romance on hype. We are diving in to all the things that we've pushed aside because life has gotten too serious. Now we want to play. Now we want to have fun. Now we want to flirt. Now we want attention. And trust me, Venus will stop at nothing in order to get what it is that she wants now that she's in Leo. So outside of this beautiful Venus energy, which we're all going to benefit from, we have the moon opposing Mars. So the moon in Aquarius, very much an air sign, very in the intellect, visionary. We are seeing where it is that we need to be free, where we need to be independent, where we want to kind of leave the old confines, the old restrictions behind. And an opposition is head to head. They're in the boxing ring. Mars, of course, the god of war in Leo, very passionate right now, defining what it is that he wants, stopping at nothing, being very bold and direct, going after, his new passions, his new desires. There's some friction here because emotionally, we are being triggered right now to get up and go, to take action, to move forward. However, there are a couple of things that we have to consider, that we have to plan for. The one downside of Mars's energy is that he acts first and thinks later, and that can get us into some trouble. Right now, we're in a very powerful manifestation phase where we really need to tap into that mental plane, into the heart space, plan logically and practically how we're going to execute the path forward. So we are going to feel a little bit of push and pull, a little bit of a tug and war here, because Mars in Leo wants everything to happen yesterday. This Aquarian energy sees the bigger picture moving forward, sees where it is that we need to be calculated and strategic moving forward. But of course, that really festers up a lot of irritability, a lot of frustration, a lot of just conflicted feelings, because of course, we want to hit the ground running. So the moon goes ahead and has this conversation with the true node, and it's a trine, so it's a good conversation. And it's almost like, listen, I know that we got to hit the ground running. I know what it is that I want now. I just need a little bit more time to plan. That true node, of course, is our destiny point, pulling us on the path, making us get our shit together, recognizing where new opportunities are basically unfolding in front of us. But the moon in Aquarius wants to be calculated and strategic. We really do want to make sure that we are taking the right steps forward. Again, may I remind you, we're coming out of Gemini season that had us very divided between our heart and our head, very divided between the choices and the decisions that we had to make. Now we're definitely leaning further into one than the other, but now we know that we can't afford to just go into things willy-nilly. We have to have a plan. So the moon goes ahead and conjuncts Saturn. So Saturn is retrograde in Aquarius. This is the Lord of Karma, right? He's not fun. This is the military grandfather that wants you to boss up, wants you to be mature, wants you to learn your lesson, wants you to stick to the chores and the tasks at hand. And the moon, of course, sitting next to Saturn in Aquarius in a retrograde, is kind of asking ourselves to move inward, to be a little bit more reflective on our past experiences, on maybe some of the moves that we made in the past that we didn't think through, that we weren't strategic enough about, that we were acting out of emotional reaction, which is ego identity, and not giving enough time to listening to that intuition, listening to that higher self, listening to that heart space. So we really are going to have a reality check. Of course, Saturn always brings us a reality check, and he brings up the negatives, he brings up the insecurities, he brings up the doubts. This is actually a good position for the moon in Aquarius to be in, because the moon in Aquarius is a problem solver. So if Saturn brings ahead and says, okay, but you got to be careful of this, or you can't make a move because that's going to happen. You have that snappy little air energy of the moon in Aquarius saying, okay, well, that's okay. I'm not going to get stuck on that. I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm going to be able to come up with a solution for that. And, the conversation is a little bit short-lived because Saturn just wants to drill into us all of the things that we should be worrying about, all the things that are going to block our path, all the reasons of why we're not going to be able to align with our soul's purpose and with our new dream and vision. So the moon had just about enough of all of that negative Nancy talk and moves on in her journey and sextiles Chiron. This is beautiful because Chiron is the wounded healer. He shows us where the wounds are still left to be healed, but also shows us how it is that we're going to heal them. So the moon, of course, in Aquarius is very emotionally detached. We're functioning better in the mental plane than we are in the heart space at this point. And that's a good thing, because blending this energy with Chiron really, is showing us face value of where the wounds still are, where the hiccups still are, where, our identities are still kind of being blurry, stepping out of the old and into the new. But we're not going to be so triggered by it that it's just going to, make us melt. Because, the moon in Aquarius can handle it. We're going to problem solve that. Suddenly, we shift our perspective. That Aquarian energy is such a futuristic visionary that we are able to take the information and then snap our fingers and bam, suddenly see a brand new perspective. And a lot of this, because we are in this really weird adjustment period, a lot of this is seeing our past from fresh set of eyes. And when we see the past from a different perspective, suddenly it heals something in us and it alters the way that we're going to move forward. So as if that wasn't beautiful enough, the moon in Aquarius squares Uranus in Taurus. Now here's something interesting. Uranus rules over Aquarius. So it's very, very close quarters here. And of course, a square is a tension point. It's a crisis point. Now, Uranus in Taurus, an earth energy, very focused on routines, on our values, on our self-worth, on our relationships, on our monetary worth, and planning for the future. Uranus has been just shaking us, showing us where it is that we're overly attached to our routines, to our personal relationships, to our values, because Uranus sees, again, futuristically, the bigger picture. And we got to get ourselves out of this rut in order to move into a space where we can actually manifest the dreams and the reality that we are looking to bring to life. So we do kind of butt heads here a little bit because we're trying to problem solve. That is the moon in Aquarius. And we're trying to problem solve where it is that we're having a problem detaching from our attachments in our routines, in our personal relationships, in our values, in our worth, in the way that we are making money. And all of this has a great effect, a huge effect on how it is that we actually are going to reconstruct our plans moving forward. Speaking of those words, the moon goes ahead and trines Mercury, who is fresh out of a retrograde. Mercury is online. He will be fully up to speed on July 7th, and he is definitely trying to ask the right questions to piece together where it is we need to go from here. So the moon in Aquarius, air sign, Mercury in Gemini, which is his powerful placement, his powerful throne, if you will, all kinds of air energy. So this is a mental conversation. This is an aha moment. This is a processing of the information that we are now sorting through. And again, the moon in Aquarius wants to help us break free from some of the problems that we've been running into, especially in our perspective, in our thinking, in our narrative. This is also going to be an opportune time to speak your piece. Mercury is now direct, meaning a lot of the things that triggered us while Mercury was retrograde that we couldn't speak on, now we're speaking about it. We're communicating. Mercury rules over the mental plane and how it is that we express ourselves. So this is a time to clear the air. It's a time to speak your truth. It's a time to speak up. And with this moon in Aquarius, we are speaking out in a way that is definitely emotionally detached, speaking facts, speaking truth, speaking strategically on how it is that we're going to clear up and solve some of the problems that took place while Mercury was out. The last aspect that we have here today is the sun making an aspect with Saturn. So the sun is in Cancer, putting a bright light on our foundations, especially where our home and our family dynamics are concerned. This is really illuminating for us where we have to implement new boundaries in order to protect ourselves. Saturn, of course, is retrograde in Aquarius, ripping us down inside. Why? Because we need to rebuild ourselves back better and stronger. The sun in Cancer, very, very focused on keeping things the same, on attachments, on recognizing where it is that we do want change, but that we are blocking ourselves from that change because we refuse to let go of the past. We refuse to let go of romanticizing how things happened and how we wanted them to be. And Saturn, of course, is giving us a reality check like no other. From this particular energy, we are actually going to have a little bit more bigger, broader perspective, especially trusting our intuition, trusting our higher self, where it is that the negative narrative needs to die and where we need to write a new one, where nurturing and taking care of ourselves are concerned. This Cancer energy tends to highlight for us where it is that we give too much of ourselves away for other people and then become a little bit resentful towards them because we're not getting that same kind of energy and attention back. And because Saturn is about restrictions and rules and karma and connections, we're definitely going to be illuminated to where it is that we need to bust some of these restrictions down, build new boundaries that give us a little bit more freedom, and reserve the energy for ourselves.